We're just going to break into that to bring you some breaking news from the world of Hollywood, and that is that it's been reported that the actor, director and heartthrob Robert Redford has passed away at the age of 89. He was known as an actor in the 70s, a real bankable leading man for films like Barefoot in the Park, Butch, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Out of Africa, but also then went on to direct, winning an Oscar for the film Ordinary People that he directed. Also founded the Sundance Film Festival, which supports emerging filmmakers and showcases independent film, a real legacy in Hollywood. He was an environmental activist. He supported Native American rights, and he announced his retirement from acting back in 2018. But he continued to work as an environmentalist and a campaigner since then. Throughout the 70s, he was on the screen so much, as I've said, you know, real heartthrob. Films like Barefoot in the Park, All the President's Men as well, The Sting that he won an Oscar nomination for, and more recently, films like The Horse Whisperer and All Is Lost in 2013. We've had a statement just come through from the firm Rogers & Cowan, PMK, which is his publicity company, saying Robert Redford passed away on September the 16th, 2025, at his home in Sundance, in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved, and he will be missed greatly. Go on to say in this statement that the family requests privacy. Let's bring in our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer. Katie, what to say about him? I mean, he was, on one hand, you know, just an astonishing heartthrob. You know, any film that he was in, he was pretty much guaranteed to do well, but also then went on to have this amazing career behind the scenes as a director and as somebody who supported the film industry.
Well, look, just looking at this footage now, you just see how absolutely gorgeous he was on screen, but his contribution to film, you really can't underestimate it, really, because he was just, he has just had an extraordinary career, and he's one of those names as well, whereas we've been finding this out in the newsroom itself. There's been gasps from people who are kind of absolutely sort of gutted to hear this news, really. He is someone that really, I think, within the industry is considered to be an elder statesman within the film circuit, particularly within the indie film circuit. He was the founder of the Sundance Film Festival, which he started in the early 80s, which over the course of the decades since then has produced some phenomenal indie hits over the years, and he has been a real champion of new filmmakers and new talent. And from somebody coming from such experience, it has helped really lift people up within the industry and made names of a lot of directors that we consider to be sort of established names nowadays. But he is a talent that first started out on Broadway in the late 50s, but it wasn't until the end of the late 60s when he really found fame, of course, playing Butch Cassidy and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He has made some magnificent films over the years, but for many that will be the one that he is most remembered for, because that is the one where he really sort of shot to fame on that. But while I think for many he is considered this almost sort of old-fashioned leading man, I think the one thing that you can say about his career is he is someone that took risks with the films that he wanted to make and didn't shy away either from taking on weighty subjects, things like his directorial debut in Ordinary People. It was about grief. It was his first film as a director, and he wanted to talk about the film itself is all about the sort of disintegration of this family after the death of a son, and he didn't shy away from sort of tackling the more serious subjects that we all have to deal with within society, and that his directorial debut saw him nominated for 4 Oscars. He not only does have this brilliant talent that pulls you in as a viewer when you're watching him on screen, he clearly was a very gifted director as well, very accomplished in the work that he took on. But look, we're seeing his hits now shown on screen, but things like the film All the President's Men. I think people will really remember him for taking on issues like political corruption. That film looking at really uncovering the Watergate scandals. These are films really that people today talk about in terms of being just absolute classics. But as well, I mean, think of his activism as well. He was very politically outspoken. He was a huge environmental activist as well. So I think beyond his actual appearances on screen, it will be his direction that he's remembered for today, and also his work as an environmental activist and a political activist too.
And Katie, Utah, where he passed away, in the statement we've heard, and this, it says in the statement, the place he loved. This area of Utah, the money that he got to buy this great big chunk of land was from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and that was why he named it Sundance, and that was where the Sundance Festival came from. Having an actor who then moves across into directing, it is relatively unusual in terms of it being done successfully. He was one of the first to do that, wasn't he?
I think he was one of the first to prove, really, that there is something in allowing actors that sort of access to the cameras themselves, and the vision that he had, his ability to sort of see how you can bring out the best of your actors. It was a real gift that he had. I've actually, over the years, covered the Sundance Film Festival a couple of times, and I've been in press conferences with Robert Redford talking about why he has run that festival over the years, and it was really so important to him that newer directors were given chances and money was put into independent filmmaking as well. I mean, it's something these days, so much attention is on the big blockbuster films, but without the funding and the forum to really showcase smaller indie films, then you really don't get the pipeline of talent coming through. And I think that's the one thing that certainly Robert Redford was particularly known for, was his ability to sort of lift up other young filmmakers and young talent. And over the years, so many quality independent films have come through the Sundance Film Festival because of him.
It was his support of the independent film industry, plus his environmental activism, that led to his honorary award from the Academy as well. He got that Oscar for Best Director for Ordinary People, but he got a second Oscar in 2002, and that just showed what he had done aside from the actual industry itself.
Yeah, and they don't give those awards out lightly. It's one of those things where a lot of the time, a lot of big names within Hollywood, you might assume that they've won Oscars, but for one reason or another over the years, they end up sort of missing out. And it always, certainly in the case of Robert Redford, he is an actor that wholeheartedly, his talent on screen deserved to be honoured with an Academy Award. And so that's why I think they felt compelled to actually make sure that his acting was recognised in that way, and not just his direction. But yeah, I mean, still today, we talk of him as being one of the greats, don't we? One of the modern greats, because he is, I mean, just to look at, not only was he this blonde-haired beauty, but it was the quality and the subtlety and the self-awareness to his performances that I think made him just a brilliant leading man.
Let's just remind our viewers, if they're just tuning in, the breaking news in the last few moments. It's been announced that the actor and director Robert Redford has died at the age of 89. We've had a statement in the last few moments from Robert Redford's publicity firm saying Robert Redford passed away on the 16th of September 2025 at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. He will be missed greatly. The family requests privacy. And Katie, you were just talking about his style of acting, and we're looking at all these great pictures from the 1970s, and you're talking about his subtlety. There was a softness to him, wasn't there? And I think, you know, when you think of some of the films like Butch, Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, it was quite a brutal film in many respects, but films like Out of Africa showed his softness, didn't they? His lightness of touch.
Yeah, and I think particularly that would have helped him coming from a background in theatre, really. He was someone that was trained and that knew his craft and that knew the angles to work with, the emotions to play. And I think that's why he has had a career that's sustained throughout the various decades. I mean, from the late 60s all the way through to recent years. He had retired in recent years, but even as an older actor working within Hollywood, he had made some fantastic films. But I think he had certainly in the last decade, taken a step back and moved more towards directing. But those performances that we still talk about now, the fact that we still cite films like All the President's Men as being a classic, that came from him being able to play that sort of nuance within the character of the journalist that he was trying to portray on stage. And I mean, really, when you think of the films that we're putting out these days, we talk about sort of big blockbusters, big superhero films. I mean, he came from an era where there's just the brilliant sort of independent and sort of edgy films were coming out. I mean, All the President's Men, still today, the way that it spoke about the men that were responsible for uncovering the Watergate scandal. These are films that have remained classics because of the way that people like Robert Redford acted it out on screen and the writing. He's from an era where independent filmmaking was just brilliant and just flourishing.
And he pivoted, didn't he? I mean, I suppose best known for two of the early movies, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Sting, which both became classics and, of course, sort of made his name. And then, as you said, you know, his good looks used to great effect in films like Out of Africa. But then he wasn't afraid to skewer that image, was he, in roles like The Electric Horseman, where he played an alcoholic ex-rodeo champion, and also in Indecent Proposal that we saw the clip of just earlier, a middle-aged millionaire who offers to buy sex.
I think, yeah, if you look through his back catalogue of the hits, you will find pretty much every single decade he had a hit and sort of managed to be a part of these films that were just a part of the sort of zeitgeist of the time almost. Yes, starring alongside Demi Moore in that film, another great classic, really. He was somebody that just had I think, as well as being just a brilliant actor, he could see what would translate very well onto the screen, and you see that reflected in the way that he managed to direct, the eye that he had for telling stories, but also I think he had a clear sense of what made a good film script as well, and I think that was the key to his success over the years. He wasn't saying yes to absolutely every single project. I think if you think of there are sadly some actors of his generation who have ended up sort of saying yes to a lot of things, and for that reason, I don't think, I mean, it was hard to think of a bad Robert Redford film. He was brilliantly sort of selective in the films that he chose, and I think that is reflected in the way that people see him as well, because people have such affection for him and the roles that we associate with him. So many classics.
Yeah, he clearly had a really strong critical eye when it came to looking at script and deciding what he was going to do. I've just been looking while you've been talking at some quotes from him, and you and I both alluding to the fact that let's make no bones about it, he was flipping gorgeous. And he said, it's a quote from here saying, "People have been so busy relating to how I look. It's a miracle I didn't become a self-conscious blob of protoplasm. It's not easy being Robert Redford," he once told New York Magazine. And you're right. I mean, he could have. I mean, I'm sure the jobs of romantic heartthrob lead, you know, he must have had thousands of those, but instead he chose to pick scripts that were just far more interesting, far more challenging, and just did so much better at the box office.
Absolutely, and I think it says a lot about him that he preferred to almost take a step back in later years and be, through his festival, encouraging others and providing a platform for others to get attention for their work, rather than signing up to any old Hollywood project that came along his way. He was someone that clearly had a lot of a moral compass and a lot of... he didn't want to tarnish his legacy, which is a good thing considering just how fond people were of the films that he was in.
And also just looking through, and apparently he turned down the role of the graduate that was taken by Dustin Hoffman.
You'd regret that one, wouldn't you?
Well, he says, I never did look like a 21-year-old college student who'd never had a great deal of experience,
No.
he said later, and held out for Butch Cassidy. He also talked a lot about Utah, and he said, some people have analysis, I have Utah. And this place that became so special to him when he passed away. Again, somebody who had huge commercial success and obviously made a load of money, but chose to live a pretty quiet life in the countryside and doing a great deal to fight for Native American rights.
Absolutely, yeah. And to see him in his element there, the couple of times that I did go to the Sundance Film Festival, and to see him walking around in the beautiful sort of snowy hills of Utah, doing what he loved doing, He was a Hollywood star like few others. I mean, he clearly didn't really have much of an interest in the trappings of fame. He purely seemed to love film and wanted others to have the same opportunities that he had had. I mean, the Sundance Film Festival, it's this forum for those people that don't know, where people can bring smaller films, showcase them, and then often you get the big studios coming along to buy up the sort of latest offerings, and that's where films like Quentin Tarantino's early work got really showcased and spotted by people. So I think there's so many people. I mean, in Los Angeles at the moment, I would imagine that they're all asleep and they will find out in a number of hours that this has happened. But I think so many people will be waking up over there tomorrow and be absolutely indebted to the work that Robert Redford did in terms of giving people a platform and helping with so many people's careers within Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking through X as we were talking, and no tributes yet to him, but that is why, isn't it? America is still asleep. They will be waking up to this desperately sad news. And in terms of who he was paired with, best probably known for being paired with Paul Newman and also Jane Fonda as well. Again, two other titans of 70s cinema. Absolutely.
Don't forget as well Barbara Streisand in The Way We Were. It was brilliantly the sort of swooning romantic drama. He shone in films like that, but also, yeah, I mean, he's been paired up with so many greats over the years, Demi Moore as well. I think so many people will be absolutely gutted to hear that this sort of star of stage and screen has passed away. He just has such a vast back catalogue of brilliant films that, if anything, I think the way to celebrate him now is perhaps to go back and look at some of these films. If you haven't watched All the President's Men, then that would be one to take a look at a little later tonight. He was just this titan of film.
He retired in 2018 from acting, but he still retained his activism, his environmentalism, and fighting for Native American rights. He didn't massively get involved in politics, though, did he?
No, but he was one of the sort of leading liberal voices within Hollywood, and certainly in terms of environmentalism. He was a real campaigner and had a number of sort of advocacy groups that he was involved with, the sort of cancelled Keystone XL pipeline. He campaigned to be a part of that. He cared about the environment. I think that, in part, came down to the amount of time that he spent outside, and that's why he loved living in Utah, living in the mountains. The thing that he cared about more than anything was the environment, and so I think he picked and chose when and where he was going to kind of use his celebrity in terms of speaking up.
Katie, let's just remind our viewers, if they're just tuning in, the breaking news in the last half hour or so. The death has been announced of the Hollywood icon Robert Redford. He died at his home at the age of 89. He was, of course, an actor, a producer, a director, an environmentalist. We've had a statement from his publicity firm. It says Robert Redford passed away on September the 16th, 2025, at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah. the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. He will be missed greatly. The family requests privacy. And just a reminder of some of those films that he made that made him so enormously successful: Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, Barefoot in the Park, All the President's Men, Out of Africa, The Horse Whisperer, Indecent Proposal, one of his latest films, All Is Lost, as late as 2013. He made that, but he was also a director, moved into directing in the 80s, Ordinary People, his first big film that he directed, and he won an Oscar for it. Also directed River Runs Through It and The Quiz Show, and was given an honorary award by the Academy, an Oscar in 2002, for all he had done to encourage young filmmakers, as well as his environmentalism. Katie Spencer, our entertainment correspondent, is joining me now. And Katie, just remind viewers who are just joining us about Sundance. And I mean, I have to confess, I didn't realise this until I was suddenly reading about him in the last sort of half an hour or so, that this all came from his role in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and this big patch of land that he bought in Utah.
But also the festival itself, the influence that has had over independent filmmaking since it came into being at the start of the 80s. He is responsible for promoting so many of the big names of film that we talk about today: Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Kevin Smith, Steven Soderbergh, films like Napoleon Dynamite, Whiplash, Quentin Tarantino's early work. They all got their start at the Sundance Film Festival, and that's because Robert Redford was one of the founders of this festival that recognised there should be, or there needed to be, a way for these smaller directors to be able to reach out to the studios and show their work, that talent doesn't always get discovered. It's important that you do have a vehicle where talent can be showing their material. And so many people, I'll be interested to hear later on what the likes of Quentin Tarantino's response will be to this, because Robert Redford, through the Sundance Film Festival, take away the huge body of work and his involvement in these classic films that people know and love, but to film more generally, and his influence over independent film and how he lifted up independent cinema. The Sundance Film Festival has done so much in terms of bringing new directors on, and that was because of Robert Redford's idea to do this.
And the family have requested privacy at this time, but it feels to me unlikely that Hollywood will not want to mark his passing somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would think when we get the Academy Awards coming around next year, I think Robert Redford will be the big name that we are talking about. He won an Academy Award for his directing. As you say, also he was given an honorary Academy Award for his contribution to film more generally, because he was almost he was an elder statesman of film, really, but particularly the indie film circuit, because he was much more than a leading man. While he from his talent point of view had starred in some mainstream blockbusters, I think more importantly will be the contribution he made in terms of independent cinema and championing really the importance of independent filmmaking.
Interesting you're saying that. Just looking on X now, there's a small statement from Marlee Matlin, who won an Oscar for Best Actress and a Best Picture for Coda, that amazing film. And she says, our film, Coda, came to the attention of everyone because of Sundance. And Sundance happened because of Robert Redford. A genius has passed. R.I.P. Robert. So echoing what Katie was saying there, that so many of the films that we've seen in recent years, unusual films that perhaps aren't the normal films that would get made in Hollywood, have come to public prominence because they've been supported by the Sundance Festival. We think we can bring you a clip now of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford at his finest.
Get away from me.
Why?
I want to fight him.
They'll kill us.
Maybe.
You want to die?
Do you?
All right.
I'll jump first.
No.
Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim!
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Let's return to Katie Spencer, who is on the line to us now. And Katie, those films in the 70s, a bunch of great films, and then almost topped off towards the end of the decade by All the President's Men.
Yeah, his political thriller about the Watergate scandal. And it is one of those films where it's almost sort of passed down between generations. I think there are few actors where you kind of can talk about the actual career as a body of work that is kind of worth seeing in itself. But I think I certainly, in my house growing up, it was my dad that said, "Yeah, you have to go and watch All the President's Men." They are films that Robert Redford made over the years that have been passed through families because they have stood the test of time, and that's because of the brilliant acting, the brilliant writing, and just the sort of nuanced performances you get from an actor like Robert Redford.
Yeah. And somebody, looking through different tributes online, no one has a bad word to say about him. Somebody who obviously made a ton of money quite early days with Butch Cassidy, and then used that to good effect. I mean, lots of celebrities these days use their money for lots of different things, don't they? But he chose to plough his into his ranch, his film festival, and his particular political causes.
Yeah, and it is that element of taking that big step back and sort of picking and choosing what you're going to work on and when to speak up. And I think he clearly was a very measured character that knew what was the best sort of use of his time, really. And certainly from his career, the fact that he loved film so much was evident in the way that he wanted people to help other people with their film careers, which he did through the Sundance Film Festival. But also, I think you get looking at his work, he wasn't showy. There was a subtlety and a real self-awareness to his on-screen presence, but also off-screen as well. We have no stories to tell you of debauched behaviour over the years. He is someone that was a good man who cared about film, and who was very considered and careful in terms of the projects that he chose. You couldn't say that he was a sellout that took any old job going. He was really considered and made sure that he took projects that suited him and that viewers have adored over the years.
And interesting to think about how he moved from acting to directing, looking back at his upbringing, growing up in Santa Monica on the beach in Los Angeles, got a college baseball scholarship, but apparently lost it after spending too much time partying. So maybe he got it all out of the system early doors.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. And so he decided he wanted to be an artist and moved to Italy and then New York to study painting, and enrolled in drama school to do theatrical set design because he thought acting was ludicrous. But he was persuaded onto the stage. I mean, someone clearly had an eye for him. It's a bit like the director that spotted Harrison Ford, isn't it? Someone clearly thought, he's a bit easy in the eye. Let's put him on the stage and see how it goes. And that led to his movement onto Broadway. So I think when you think about him moving into directing, the fact that he clearly had an artistic bent from the outset is perhaps not a surprise that he felt he wanted to paint pictures on the screen in a different way.
Yeah, and I think that's what the impression that you get from him as well. He was someone that clearly didn't really have much interest in the fame side of things. That, if anything, seemed to be something that he could occasionally use to his advantage in order to help other people to have the same opportunities that he did. But yeah, he look, he wasn't living in Hollywood. He wasn't hanging out in all of the sort of en vogue restaurants that you see some of the sort of other big names of Hollywood hanging out in. He was hidden away in this wonderfully quiet Utah village, which anyone who's gone to the Sundance Film Festival, it's just a beautiful, beautiful town. And to bring Hollywood to Utah, I mean, that in itself, the whole of Hollywood and the film industry itself decamps to this small, snowy village every January for the Sundance Film Festival. The draw was because Robert Redford was saying, this is a place that you have to come to talk about film with me. And he has just made so many people's careers over the years by helping other people get their start, get their big break within film. And look, there's not many other characters within film that have done something like that.
No, I mean, I'm thinking of Dolly Parton actually in terms of somebody in music who you know, she is obviously with Dolly World, etc., ploughed a lot back into an area of America that she loves and all that she's done in terms of educating kids with books, etc. But it's, as you say, it's unusual in the film industry for somebody to do this, and you know, he is the only one, really, isn't he? Just looking at other quotes about him, and Jane Fonda, she worked with him in early days, and then he reunited with her in 2017 for the Netflix drama Our Souls at Night, which was a romance between a widow and widower. And Fonda told journalists, "I live for sex scenes with him. He's a great kisser, so it was fun to kiss him in my 20s and to kiss him again in my almost 80s. But he said at the time that that was going to be one of his last films, and then he was planning more to focus more on directing and his first love, art. And I wonder if he has, you know, a burgeoning, you know, art collection, if he has been quietly painting away in Utah, and that this could be another legacy that perhaps we don't know that much about yet.
He was someone that was concerned more with quality over quantity, I think, in terms of his career, which is a brilliant thing, because we don't have to sort of be embarrassed by the films of later years, which is not always the case with a lot of older actors, because there are so few scripts that come along, really, in terms of vehicles for older actors. But he knew what was good writing. He knew how to make the best of his talent, and I think the fact that he was so selective, that he was determined to kind of his legacy to be more than just his films. I think that is why people have such affection for Robert Redford, and I think that's why Hollywood and beyond Hollywood will be really sort of saddened to hear the news of Robert Redford's passing.
He was asked by Esquire back in 2017 how he'd like to be remembered. And he, Katie, apparently replied, "For the work. What really matters is the work. And what matters to me is doing the work. I'm not looking at the back end. What am I going to get out of this? What's going to be the reward? I'm just looking at the work, the pleasure of being able to do the work. And that's what the fun is. To climb up the mountain is the fun, not standing at the top. There's nowhere to go but climbing up. That struggle, that to me is where the fun is. That to me is the thrill." And that is a great way to look at his career over the years and what he has done, isn't it? And that perhaps informs a little bit the choice of projects that he's had over the years, and that he hasn't, you know, sold out, I suppose you could say, you know, in terms of, you think of all the big franchises, and you can imagine the kind of offers that he must have had over the years.
Yeah.
You know, superhero roles and things like that.
Absolutely.
That he never chose to do, when there would have been, obviously, one could imagine, huge bucks in it.
And don't forget, you talk about him saying that the work was the priority. For him, the work didn't necessarily translate into acting roles. For him, I think of equal importance, if not more, was the directing side of things, and also his work in helping other people who had that vision, who had that eye, other wannabe filmmakers to get their breaks within an industry that is very hard to break into.
And Katie, just as we're closing this hour, reflecting really on the fact that his career spanned more than 6 decades. I mean, I suppose it's not unusual. We you know, we think of other great male actors over the years who've done this, but for it to span 6 decades, with such critical acclaim is quite unusual.
Absolutely. He made a huge contribution to film in terms of being a part of these absolute classics within cinema that we still talk about now, ranging from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid all the way through to his films in more recent years. His appeal, his long-lasting appeal, came down to the fact that, yes, he could be this old-fashioned sort of leading man of Hollywood. Yes, he could appear in mainstream blockbusters, but that there was much more to him than that. His subtlety of performance, the self-awareness that he had on screen, and the risks that he took in terms of daring to sort of tackle subjects that other people didn't want to stray into, grief, politics, and what have you. He was a unique talent, unique in terms of his ability to act, unique in terms of his eye that he had for directing, but also in terms of unifying the film industry as a whole and lifting up new talent through his Sundance Film Festival. He was one of a kind.
He absolutely was, Katie. Thanks so much, Katie Spencer there, our arts and entertainment correspondent, reflecting on the passing of Robert Redford. His death has been announced within the last hour by his publicist. They have released a statement saying that Robert Redford passed away at the age of 89. The statement is that he passed away on September the 16th, 2025, at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah. The place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. He will be missed greatly. The family requests privacy. And he is, of course, best known as an actor, a heartthrob, a bankable leading man in the 1970s. Became best known for Barefoot in the Park, The Sting, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, Out of Africa, The Horse Whisperer, but then pivoted into directing and received an Oscar as Best Director for the film Ordinary People in 1980. Also directed A River Runs Through It and The Quiz Show, and also founded the Sundance Film Festival, named after his role in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Also honoured by the Oscars for his work as an environmental activist as well in 2002. It's 2 o'clock. You're watching Sky News. If you're just joining us, we are bringing you the breaking news that the actor, the heartthrob, the producer, the director, Robert Redford, has passed away at the age of 89. He passed away at his home in Utah, surrounded by his loved ones. Our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, is with me. Katie, let's just reflect on his legacy. The list of films are just extraordinary, aren't they? Films he acted in, films he directed, and also his legacy to the film industry with the Sundance Festival. Yep,
he absolutely has been a real sort of elder statesman of film, and his contribution to cinema really cannot be underestimated. He was born in Los Angeles and started his career in the late 50s on Broadway, but it wasn't really until the end of the 60s with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where his fortunes were transformed with that film. He became a major name within Hollywood and really didn't look back following that. He's made so many brilliant films that I think people will be thinking about and talking about today, from the sort of romantic, weepy romances of The Way We Were, starring alongside Barbara Streisand, to All the President's Men, about the Watergate scandal and the journalists' attempts to uncover what was going on and bring down the president, to more recently in the 80s, Indecent Proposal, starring alongside Demi Moore. So many classics that it's almost sort of too many to list as we're going through them now. But aside from his brilliant performances on screen, there was a subtlety, a self-awareness to his work on screen as an actor. Aside from his brilliance on the screen, he was also brilliant behind the camera, an Oscar-winning director, his first directorial debut for Ordinary People, a drama about grief and a family who have lost their son. He won. He was nominated for 4 Oscars and won Best Director for that. And I think really that was where he really found himself. He was much more than an actor. He clearly had a great talent and a great eye in terms of seeing how to bring a story to life. And as well as that, aside from his own work on screen, the work that he did in terms of bringing newer talent into the industry through the film festival that he founded, the Sundance Film Festival, which he founded in the early 80s. That in itself has brought so many brilliantly talented new directors through and got them their Hollywood start, if you like. I think we will see later what Quentin Tarantino's response is, but certainly he, I would imagine, would say that going to the Sundance Film Festival and showing Reservoir Dogs at the Sundance Film Festival really was the jump start to his career, and he isn't the only director that has Robert Redford to thank for that. Sundance Film Festival, this independent annual sort of feast of cinema that allows these budding new directors to be in the same room as these big studios in the Utah village that Robert Redford has been living in. It brought everyone together over the years, and it has brilliantly sort of brought out so much talent within independent filmmaking over the years. And there aren't many sort of people that could encourage everyone to come to a small snowy village in Utah for a festival once a year, but people within Hollywood came to Robert Redford because they trusted him and his judgment, and they listened when he was championing new filmmakers. He was a one of a kind, and really I think so many people within Hollywood and beyond will be really saddened to hear news of his passing.
We've got a few clips that we can bring the viewers now. The first one is from Butch Cassidy in The Sundance Kid, that 1969 classic.
Get away from me.
Why?
I want to fight him.
They'll kill us.
Maybe.
You want to die?
Do you?
All right. I'll jump first.
No.
Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim.
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
And here he is starring in the 1993 film Indecent Proposal.
So what are you saying? You can't buy love? That's a bit of a cliche, don't you think?
It's absolutely true.
Is it? What do you think?
I agree with Diana.
You do? Well, let's test the cliche.
Well, that statement from his representative said Robert Redford passed away on September the 16th, 2025, at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. He will be missed greatly. The family requests privacy. And Katie, a clip that we haven't got, but I think my personal favourite is from Out of Africa. It's the hair washing scene. I mean, that certainly got a lot of ladies hot under the collar, didn't it?
I'm just looking at one headline. The Guardian have written up the incandescently handsome star who changed Hollywood forever. And I think that about sums it up, really, doesn't it? He was this kind of beautiful blonde bombshell, but he was much more than his looks. Like, how many times do we talk about sort of women trying to get away from the image side of things and be thought of in terms of their abilities? But actually, he was one of the few men that was just so handsome that he sort of had to try twice as hard to kind of be fitting in with the more quirkier stars that were of his sort of era, the Jack Nicholson, the Woody Allen sort of type voices. It was sort of more trendy to be a bit sort of scuffed and a bit sort of slightly looking a bit more like he'd been sort of dragged through a hedge backwards. He didn't have that, but what he did have shone through on the screen. There was just a great subtlety and a sort of brilliantly sort of nuanced performances that he gave in those films, that he was really sort of selective in terms of the projects that he chose. And I think that's why we can sort of look back at his career today, and it's hard to really point out a duff film, really, if you like, because he made classics within cinema. So many films that I think have been passed on through generations, really. That's a rite of passage, really, to show you younger ones films like Butch, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, if they're into films. He was selective about the projects that he chose, and what mattered to him more seemed to be the art, and that's why his legacy will be much more than just the films that he made. He cared about championing independent filmmaking, and that's what we're seeing in terms of his legacy now, being the fact that he was responsible for more than just his own films and championing other new talent coming through.
Katie Spencer, really good to talk to you today. Katie Spencer just giving us the real lowdown on Robert Redford's history, his career, and Katie, of course, been to the Sundance Film Festival as well and seen firsthand the impact of that festival that he founded based in the mountains, where he bought a big patch of land after his success in Butch, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and all of the film directors who have done well and who've been promoted from then. We just had a message on X from one of the actors involved in Coda saying that their film would not have been made had it not been for Sundance, would not have been successful had it not been for Sundance, had it not been for Robert Redford. So there will be many tributes to him coming in, I am sure, but his death has been announced at the age of 89. Let's bring in now journalist Siobhan Sinnott, who's a film and TV journalist. Siobhan, what would you say his legacy would be?
Oh, undoubtedly, first and foremost, he was very proud of Sundance, and it was a film festival that he set up in his home state of Utah. It encouraged independent-minded filmmakers to make films with ideas, with the kind of activism that was so much part of Robert Redford's life. I think certainly Sundance would be something that he felt very strongly, very passionate about. But it's so interesting to look back at the career of Robert Redford and see how the Robert Redfordness of it, all the contradictions of the man, are reflected in the films that he chose. He, of course, came up with Barefoot in the Park, with Jane Fonda, a light, frothy comedy. But, of course, people remember him for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, The Sting. There are those who still love The Great Waldo Pepper. But I think there's a lot of unvain choices in Robert Redford's films, that he was very keen to explore the shadows under a gilded exterior. So you think of The Candidate, a terrific movie in the 70s, where he plays a young, aspiring, idealistic politician who slowly gets chewed up and shaped by the political machine to the point that he loses a sense of himself and why he's in politics in the first place. Or Downhill Racer, another very unvain Robert Redford performance. He was a director as well, of course. He won an Oscar for Ordinary People. A River Runs Through It was another one. But I think Ordinary People shows the regard that Hollywood held him in. It's a good film, but perhaps not an all-time best film. I'm not sure it's a legacy statement, but it certainly, I think there was a strong feeling at the time that Hollywood really wanted to give an award to their golden boy there.
Yeah, because think of all those great films from the late 60s and 70s and not given Best Actor for any of them. Was he robbed?
I think he was robbed, actually, because Robert Redford was a very good actor. I mean, I interviewed him, I met him a few times, and I think he was mostly exasperated by was the obsession with his matinee idol looks and his golden boy persona, the sort of films that exhibited this, like The Way We Were. He wanted to be known as something more than that. There was more to Robert Redford, and we know that he was an activist. We know he was he felt very passionate about the environment. That he wanted to make movies of character and distinction. That he wanted to be seen, helming, interesting films. I mean, The Old Man and a Gun, a film he made when he was 82, just shows an actor still capable of being fascinating to watch on screen.
Yeah, I mean, it was a double-edged sword, wasn't it? He talked about how he struggled a bit with the fact that he was, objectified, and we've certainly been objectifying him this hour, it has to be said. But I suppose in the same way that you would objectify someone like Marilyn Monroe, they physically are astonishing to look at, and when they're on the screen, it's very different to take your eyes off them.
Yes, he was an extraordinarily beautiful-looking man in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and still very striking when I met him, but also very wary of the press, I would say, even at that point where he was in his late 70s, early 80s. He didn't enjoy scrutiny. He didn't enjoy examination of his private life. He had a very long marriage followed by a not terribly happy divorce, and I think he resented the interest in that enormously. And he resented the interest in any sort of aspect of his private life. What he wanted was the films to speak for him and for his activism to speak for him.
Yeah, and there was that other quote where he said it wasn't about getting to the top of the hill, it was about the journey up it. It was, you got a sense that he actually really enjoyed his craft. He enjoyed the act of actually making a film and acting in it, and then in later life enjoyed directing and producing.
Yeah, I think the directing and producing shows what a restless spirit Robert Redford was, that he wasn't happy with just turning up, acting on screen, collecting the cheque, going home. He wanted films to say more to people than that. And he believed, I think, audiences deserved more than that as well.
Yeah, really good to talk to you, Siobhan. Just joined there to talk about, Siobhan Sinnott there, to talk about the life and legacy of Robert Redford. His death has been announced at the age of 89.